Lesson 2, Team Management. This is the first process in the supporting processes in project management. Team management is the process to administer and coordinate a team of individuals to perform a task. That is the basic definition. Here are some of the steps that we need to manage our team. The first step is team identification. Make sure that you got all the people with the right skills that can do the work that is needed in the project. Then you need to do the process of team building, making sure that the people in your team are working as a team rather than a group or individuals. That brings a level of certain efficiencies in the work they do. And also there's going to be a lot of team building activities that you need to create in that environment. Team evaluation is to make sure that the team is developing and they are performing based on your expectations of that team. And then based on that evaluation, you can then identify areas to improve your team, either by having more team building exercises or maybe increasing certain skills that your project team needs. One of the tools that we use in team management is the inventory skill matrix. Based on the expertise areas needed in your project, then each one of your team members are going to be rated. And they're going to be rated in terms of whether there is an awareness of that concept or understanding, whether there is a working knowledge, they can do that work, there is a proficiency in which they don't need any supervision to do that work, or they are an expert in that field. And once you start identifying all your experts and the people who are going to be working, then you are able to eventually to identify the gaps that exist. Maybe you need somebody who's an expert in communication plans, and you identify maybe one or two people that need to have more training on that area or have to have some specific capacity building aligned so that you can have people who can then deliver that type of work. This is a good tool to help you identify what are the current skills in your team and what is the gap, and based on that you can then use it to develop your development plan for your team. Another tool, and this is the basic tool, is the team organization. That's your chart in which you identify the roles and responsibilities in everybody. But it's also a way to identify the levels of responsibility and the different groups that you're going to have in your team based on their areas of expertise or responsibilities and the reporting relationships in your project. Another important tool used in team management is the responsibility matrix. This is also known as the RACI matrix. We'll explain it. For every activity that you have in your project based on the WBS, you identify the team members, and even you can include people within the organization that are going to be supporting or doing some work for you in your project. Based on that information, you need for each one of these activities or deliverables in your project, you identify all the people who are going to be responsible, but only one. You cannot have two responsibles for the same activity. So once you identify everybody who's going to be responsible, you also need to identify who's going to be accountable. And accountable also means the final person who has the final authority for an authorization. And here we find that we're missing somebody, and it's a good opportunity to say, well, based on what I need to do, maybe I need to add somebody here on that role. And once you complete that, make sure that it's only one person responsible for an activity and only one person responsible for authorizing. And that's kind of a quality control mechanism. Then you can identify people who are going to be consulted or need to be informed. Notice that there are certain boxes or people that they don't need to be involved in everything, and that's good. That is okay. You don't want to overwhelm them with additional work. That responsibility matrix is also good for everybody to understand what is not only the responsibility for certain activities, but the people who are going to be engaging in terms of consulting or informing about the progress of that activity. Here are some basic recommendations in team management. Make sure you understand the transformation between a group and a team. Building a team is an important step and important responsibility as a project manager. You also need to have good communications and understand what motivates your team, because that's going to be one of your key roles in communicating and motivating your team to deliver the best. Build trust. If there is no trust in the team, it's going to be very difficult for them to work together and create the signatures that are needed in that team. And monitor team performance. Identify where are their weaknesses and the areas in which they can improve, and that can provide you with opportunities for them either to increase their team building capacities, increase some of their skills, understanding maybe they need additional resources. That team performance is a critical element to make sure that your team is performing to their best and they're able to deliver what the project needs.